Hello, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Emmy the Cat Lady, and we're back with another Far Harbour creature in the Science-Ology series. So today we're talking about hermit crabs. So Far Harbour creatures definitely seem to follow an odd rule that the smaller the pre-war version of a creature, the larger its mutated version is going to be, as we discussed last week with the fog crawlers that came from shrimp, and these guys come from hermit crabs. So what are hermit crabs? They're quite well known. They're famous for using shells from other animals and changing them out when they grow too big for their current shell, unlike most other crabs and shelled animals that have their own shells that they grow. So there's about 800 different species of hermit crabs in the world. They vary in size, but they all have soft abdomens that they have to find suitable shells to protect. They will exchange shells with other hermit crabs, but if there's a lot of competition for the same shells, they will fight each other for access to the suitable shells. They do remodel the shells as well to suit them better, so they'll hollow them out to make them lighter, using chemical and physical means to achieve this. And in the absence of appropriate seashells, they have been known to use other items like tin cans, plastic cups and other detritus, particularly human waste. And this is obviously a problem with plastic waste in the oceans, as they can get into them but can't get themselves back out, and that can lead to the crab's death. And that problem is then compounded because dead hermit crabs give off a scent that alerts other hermit crabs that there's a shell available, and the cycle can then repeat as these crabs use the plastic, die, and then another one comes along and tries to use it, and the same thing happens. So there was a report in February 2024 by Polish researchers that showed that 10 out of 16 hermit crabs were using artificial items as shells like plastic waste, glass bottles and light bulbs. That's 62.5%, which is really concerning from an environmental point of view, that they're using our waste essentially instead of the kinds of shells that they really should be using. So it's quite serious. So the most likely species that appears in Far Harbour is Pagaris acadianus, the Acadian hermit crab, which is the most abundant hermit crab in Salisbury Cove, which is a village within the town of Bar Harbour, which is the real world location of Far Harbour. And the name obviously fits really well, given that one of the locations in Far Harbour where the synths are is called Acadia. It makes the most sense. They are known to run away from threats or curl up and hide in their shells when they're threatened. So the Far Harbour hermit crabs are very much like their real world counterparts, except obviously much, much, much bigger. And we know that by now that radiation makes things bigger. And like the hermit crabs that we know, they will use whatever they can find that fits as a shell. In this case, vans, particularly the lobster grill vans, which is hilariously ironic, and they stay hidden inside their shells unless another creature is present. You can sometimes tell whether it's a hermit crab or not from the position of the suitcase in the van. If it's pushed up against the top, it's probably a hermit crab. And then they just kind of appear out of nowhere. They are dangerous and they deal a lot of damage and have high health, and they can hide in their shell and release a bunch of hatchlings to attack you. They essentially fire egg bombs at you. So like all of Fallout 4's enemies, there's variants that are more powerful as your character level gets higher, so you do have glowing ones and albino variants around. They can be very tough and take you by surprise if you're not careful, and I avoided any spoilers for the DLC when it came out, and I got frightened my life the first time I encountered one, wondering why that wrecked van was suddenly coming towards me. So they do work quite well as kind of ambush predators, I guess, in Far Harbour. And of course, like all good Fallout creatures, if you can succeed in killing them, then you can eat them. And the raw hermit crab meat gives you 100 hit points, 25 rads and +1 endurance. Grilled hermit crab, on the other hand, is worth 200 hit points and +2 strength and +2 endurance for 30 minutes, which makes it even better than the Mirelurk Queen steak, especially if you're a melee character, although Mirelurk Queens are a bit more commonplace than the hermit crabs, so their meat is a bit more accessible than the hermit crabs. They don't tend to respawn, certainly not anywhere near as frequently as the Mirelurk Queens do, so definitely an interesting creature, and I would say the hermit crabs are probably my favourite from Far Harbour. I think they're great. I love the idea that you've got these gigantic hermit crabs that are using literal vehicles as shells, because that's the only thing they can find that's big enough, and the fact that they can just hide in plain sight, and there's even temptation for you to approach because there's a suitcase and there's usually one of the big green sort of military duffel bag things sticking out of them as well, and you do find the vans that have those and they're legit and there's nothing there, but that then means that you see one and you walk towards it and then this giant crab appears out of nowhere. So quite effective for frightening the bejesus out of the unprepared sole survivor, and I just think they're really, really interesting, and I think it's great. Again, the different enemies that you find in Far Harbour compared to the rest of the Commonwealth makes things really, really interesting. So what do you think about the hermit crabs? Did you get taken by surprise your first time encountering one? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you all next time for more. Okay, bye.